Do you think the work week, like 5 days of work, 2 days off, works for anybody? Do you think like I remember when I was in practice, I really started to see a trend with my patients that they were literally working to live a life that they love 2 days out of 7.
Right, right. And I think it's different for everybody. And I think that the question we want to ask ourselves is your level of energy. What is your emotional energy after you work 3 days or 4 days or 5 days? Do some people prefer, for example, to work like 3 longer shifts of 12 hours and then have the rest of the week off? So it's a really personal thing. And the other thing about it too, Mindy, I found like I've been a business owner for, over 25 years like you, but what I would just define as a successful work week now is different because my boys are teenagers. When they were little, I
Yes.
wanted to have literally a 2 day
Yes.
practice. To me, success was
Yeah.
a 2 day practice where I could basically,
Yeah.
go to my practice and see my patients and work with them. But then to do the drop off and the pickup was major success for me. I thought I can do whatever I want to do, but as long as I can do drop off and I can do pickup, then I feel like I've kind of got my ducks in a row. And so that's where, again, we have to kind of circle back to that question about what is my vision and what does success look like for me in this stage of my life, in the stage with my family, the stage with my children. And then you can, hopefully you can kind of redesign it or shift it or, as we kind of go through different stages.
So let's create some buckets.
Okay.
When we look at like a successful life, you've got the success in your career.
Yeah.
You have your success maybe as a parent. And everybody listening to this podcast says, if they have kids, have very different age kids. You have your success as a friend.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
I can tell you where I've landed in my life right now. My friends are like gold to me, as you know. Like I just love like connecting to my friends. And then I have my success, in my marriage. I have my success in health.
Right.
So those are a lot of buckets
Yeah.
to try to balance. So is it time spent on all those different successes, or is it how fulfilled I am in all those areas? And is this a work week that should change every week because where I put my efforts because of how drained or full those relationship buckets feel?
They are.
Do you see where I'm going?
For sure, for sure. And it's a great question. So it is absolutely the different buckets. So the buckets of work and career, buckets of friendship and relationships, buckets for ourselves. Okay, this is a huge thing for a lot of women.
Yeah, self.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of women, we feel guilty. There's the guilt factor. We could do a whole segment about the guilt factor, about how a lot of us don't do, we just feel so guilty when we take time for ourselves. So you have all of these different buckets and they all require amount of time and energy, but how much time and energy is really personal. So for example, for some people listening, they're like, you know what, on the work side, if I do 30 hours on the work side, I love it. I'm energized. I love this kind of work. And so that might be like the right bucket for that person. Another person might be like, you know what, I like 50 hours. Or the relationship. Some people might say like, I want to spend an hour with my spouse. Another person's like, you know what, actually like 20 minutes is like good for me. Right. So you can kind of like, so you have to kind of think about what is the amount of time for these different kind of buckets that I really need to be kind of prioritizing in my day. And I would actually say that it's not so much the amount of time, it's the quality or the depth.
Quality.
It's the quality of the depth. And especially you probably are like the same way. I don't want to, like for friendships, for example, I have such little time that I'm very careful in terms of who I surround myself with and how I invest that time. And my husband will say to me all the time, like he watches my emotional energy. When I hang out with so-and-so, he's like, I love it when you hang out with so-and-so because you come home and you're energized, right? You're energized and you're filled. And he goes, 1 hour with that friend is like way better than 5 hours with that friend. So it's not it's not the amount of hours. It's what happens emotionally. What happens to our emotional energy when we're spending time with certain people or doing some kind of work. That to me is when we can really tap into and understand the art and the science of that. It's very powerful because it's not so much about the hours, it's the richness and the impact that actually has on us emotionally that we really want to pay attention to.
Okay, I think you're bringing up a really interesting point. And, I had a friend, and I feel like we had this conversation before, but I had a friend who, whenever we got together, we were just so happy. And then when we left each other's, being with each other, we're so happy. And we called it a positive energy exchange.
Oh, I love it.
And so I would literally at the end of a work week, and it was really interesting because I was a working mom, she was a stay-at-home mom. And by Friday, I would send her a message and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to get done at work at 2:00 today. I'm going to grab the kids and I'm coming up to your house because I need a positive energy exchange. And it became this like code to be like, I need to come and get filled up.
Wow.
And then I started to look at all the areas in my life that had these positive energy exchanges. And what I found is that if I could put myself in environments that lit me up, then it never felt like I needed any kind of balance. The only time I needed work-life balance was when things were draining me and stressing me. Then I needed to balance it with things that brought me joy and energized me.